Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Inner Sparks podcast. Today's guest is Dr. Stephen Waite, Assistant Professor of Exercise Science, former NCAA D2 goalkeeper, marathon runner, and certified strength and conditioning specialist. Dr. Waite blends academic rigor with lived athletic experience, helping students and athletes understand human performance from the inside out. In this episode, we dive into his philosophy of performance, his evolution as a runner, the discipline behind running a 2:39 marathon, and the balance between being a professor, father, and athlete, and the powerful role of community, motivation, and identity in long-term performance. Let's get started. Tell me a little bit about then how engaging in those different activities has changed your perspective, even teaching now, of performance. When you hear the word performance, what do you think about?
Yeah, so performance to me is, a lot of people think, okay, they probably relate to performance to like what they see on TV, right, with professional sports. And that used to be my view of it until I started, trying these different sports and really working hard to get good at them. To me, the way I view performance now is it's based on the individual's goal and what level that they want to compete at. So, for instance, like when my boss told me like, wow, you could be like a pro runner, in my mind, I'm automatically like shutting that out. Like, no, that's not what I view performance. I don't want to be a professional runner. I know professional runners. I don't want to do what they do. Their bodies take a lot more beating than I do. So for me, performance is like, it's whatever you can do day in and day out, whether it's training or rehabilitation, recovery, and so forth, to get the most out of your physiology to accomplish the goal that you have in the sport or activity or whatever it is that you're doing. And so, and performance is a process, right? It's not like, yeah, you could look at, okay, what was the last time that I ran that marathon? Okay, that's one performance, but I view performance as it's a lifespan, right? And I hope that, I'm 35 now. I hope that when I'm 70, I'm still doing this thing. I won't be doing it as fast, but so to me, performance is just basically like what can you do to push yourself to reach your goals and continue to set those goals so that you're not becoming stagnant and complacent. And just to touch on that a little bit further, I'm a father, and so that's my identity outside of my faith is that I am a believer, and I'm a father and a husband and a researcher and a teacher and a wannabe pro marathoner, right? But as a father now, I think about my kids and what did they see me doing? Because that's how I viewed my father. When I saw my dad, like my mom would drag me to cycling events, and we're bundled up because we're freezing cold up 7,000 feet on some mountain waiting for dad to drag his huge body up on a bike. That I'll never forget those experiences, because watching my dad fly by in a pack of semi-pro cyclists and just the memory of the joy and the excitement and just the awe of like, that's my dad. My dad's doing that, That's what I want to be. When I think of performance, I think of like, what am I doing in my sport and in my daily life that I'm, basically leading a legacy for my kids to follow, and I hope that people who listen to this, that's kind of that's a challenge to them, right? That everybody should view like, you have one chance at this life and you have one chance at making an impact, and we're not going to be perfect as we do it, but if you can show up every day and do your best to perform, that's gonna be huge for those who are watching.
How do you stay fresh for your own performance across the board? Like, you wake up every day, how do you keep your energy levels up? How do you stay on top of running? How do you stay on top of teaching, on top of parenting? All these different things that require your energy. How do you keep going? What's your secret, so to speak?
Yeah, I don't know if I have like any particular secret that's like here it is. If you do this, you'll do what I do. I think a lot of it, to kind of take a step back, a lot of it comes from like your personality, right? And not all of us are driven, like we're not all wired the same way, right? And I'm a guy of faith, so I believe that like God has designed us all in a unique way, and some of us are similar and some are very different. I would say what I'm really good at is, well, I'm very type A. And so anybody that's gotten to know me, like in the classroom, they know I'm very organized. Everything has to be in place. My Canvas page has folders within folders, and you can find everything. Like I have to have order. Almost like borderline OCD, you could call it. My wife would probably say I'm OCD. And that's just like, for me, I have to have that order, and then there's not order everywhere. And this is where like it gets a little weird with kids, and they're at that age where like Reese is getting old enough to where she knows to like put things away. But like when you're in that baby phase, like Callum, he just runs around the house, grabs stuff, and just takes it over there, and then takes this over there, and they'll do it all day long. And my wife is really easygoing; she's really good with the kids. But I come home and she doesn't have the same mindset of me. Like I have this like I need order mindset, and I've learned that like when I'm at work, I can have order because it's my office, it's my lab, and I can have things the way I want them to be, so that they function and have a purpose. And then when I come home, it's just like toys everywhere, mad chaos, right?
Yeah.
So I've learned to have that balance, and that balance is really healthy. So no matter what your personality type is, I would say the secret, if there is one, is to have an open mind that not everything has to be the way that you think it needs to be. And that like, it's good to have routine and order in some areas of your life, but it's also good to have that balance of like, hey, let things go. You know, let it be messy. Let it, you know, you don't have to care about everything. And I would say that's the difference between who I am today and who I was 10 years ago before kids. And when I was really going after it, like when I was really into marathon running, I mean, there was a time span, Tobias, where I ran. So Sunday was my 24th marathon. Wow. And I ran my first one in 2014.
Do you think now your training style is different that encompasses more of this flexible standpoint? Do you see that playing out in maybe your runs, or do you see that playing out in just general flexibility, or how have you incorporated it more?
So when I first started training for marathons, we had a coach who would give us a calendar, and he would say every single day it said what you had to do, what pace to run at, everything, right? Like as if you were in college and you went to the track and your coach said, this is what we're doing today. And so I was very regimented. I would actually meal prep every night. So I knew exactly what I was going to eat for morning, lunch, and then dinner. I would like make dinner and then meal prep again. And that became like routine. Like I generally knew how much calories I was taking in. My watch was telling me how much I was burning. It was very calculated. And I was like testing myself, you know, like back in 2017, probably when I was running like my best times, between 2016 and 2018 is probably when I had like my best years, where I was consistently running 245 or faster. And so I think I ran like 12 marathons in that span under 245. So I was like consistently running really well. And I was testing myself often, and like my weight was at its lowest. Like I was under 160 pounds, and I think at one point I was like 6.5%, 7% body fat. So I was like very, very tuned. But that's really relaxed a lot. Like now I don't have a calendar. I have a general idea of what I'm doing, and that really just comes from practice. Like I said, I've run 24 marathons. So, and I honestly, I couldn't even tell you how many halves. I've run over 50 half marathons, like raced over 50. Like I don't even know how many 5Ks and 10Ks. Like I love to race. I love to compete. And really I'm competing against myself, and I'm seeing how much I can get out of myself. So now I'm kind of at the point where every day I wake up and I'm like, I have an idea of like, I want to run for about an hour to an hour and a half, somewhere in that time. I know where my paces should be because I know how fit I am. So like consistently I can run 12 miles at like 640 to 650 pace. And I'm relaxed at that pace. And that's like my heart rate's settled at like in the low 140s. Like I'm at a rhythm. And then I know what my fast times are and my slow times, so I can adjust. So I don't really think about it too much. And I use Strava to kind of gauge like where's my fitness increasing, because they have like a fitness predictor and like a race predictor on there. And I don't think it's that accurate, but it gives you an idea of like Strava's like showing you, hey, you're consistently getting better. And you can see the trends in your running on there with their maps. And I like that. And my watch, I use Coros. So Coros has the same, really better technology. You can dive into the metrics and everything. So I would say I have more technology now that I can use, that I pay attention to, but I'm less regimen. Like I don't wake up every morning thinking, oh, I have to do this track workout, like 400 repeats and doing like 10 of them at this pace. It's much more relaxed in that sense. And I think that's been good for my mental health and my personality. It's helped find balance, because otherwise I get too obsessive, and I could just envision that if I followed the same routine that I used to, I would allow something little like my son having a meltdown or something would just like throw me off, and
Yeah.
And you can't afford to do that as a dad.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of the work that I'm doing now with clients is setting up these systems and setting up these habits and routines to eliminate a lot of decision fatigue. So it sounds like when you're in that mode, you knew exactly what to do every waking moment of the day for this training purposes.
Yeah.
And so doing that hard work, it seems like too, have kind of given you the skills and the tools you need now to know, without doing that, where you are relatively. Because that's such an interesting correlation between the two of a lot of, right? I'm working with a lot of lawyers right now, and they wake up and it's just like, all right, here's your project, and it's due in 2 weeks. It's like, okay, but like what do I do? So it's a lot of breaking down the big task into smaller tasks and approaching it in a different way. So sounds like you were on top of it though with the training.
Yeah, and that's just something you kind of develop. Like I would assume a lawyer, they get a case and they go, okay, this is how I'm going to tackle it, right? They just know how to do it. And running is kind of the same way. Once you figure out how to set it up, so right, and it's really similar to like weightlifting. So anybody that's ever done like a periodized program for strength training, you build up for 3 weeks, you drop down. You build up for 3 weeks, you drop down. That's a linear periodization model, right? And the drop down allows you to recover, so then you can build up even higher, right? And running's the same way. So we start off like, the goal is like, maybe you start off like 50, 60 miles a week and you start to build up your mileage. And then every once in a while you'll drop down. And if you were to look at my Strava, you'd see that sometimes I have ups and downs because of injuries, but usually it's I climb up to like 80 miles and then I dip down into the 60s or 70s and I jump back up and I get up into the 90s. And, my peak week in this last training block was 100 miles in a week, and which isn't a lot for me. Like back 10 years ago, it's like my base mileage would be like 80 and I get up to like 120. So like I was really serious. And within that week, I know how to build it up slowly, and then you peak at your long run. So in every long run, you're doing like 16, 18, 20, 22, 16, 18, 20, 22, right? And you just keep building that, through the training block, and you can do that for 3-4 months. So once you learn how to do that process, you no longer really need to rely on the calendar to tell you what to do, kind of like a boss would tell you what to do. You just kind of, know what to do. And now the plus side to having a coach, which is what I don't have right now. I rely on my own mental strength, I guess. The coach is there to tell you like, hey, I see a concern. Let's back off. Right. And I feel those concerns, but I'm not the best at listening to myself. And that's where I think I really went wrong in the past, is I would get really bad injuries. Like I've had multiple stress fractures and I think that's kind of part of my, I don't know, physiology, my mental ability is I can push through pain. Ironically, I've run on at least that I know of 3 stress fractures for over 2 weeks, to the point where like they just kept getting worse and worse. And I would like try and justify in my head, no, that pain's not that bad. Like you're bigger than this, and then all of a sudden it like really breaks and you're like, oh no, I can't walk now. So that's where it's good to have a coach and somebody who's like kind of putting you in check. But I think at some point, like kind of, the field that you're in right now, where you're working with these clients, they need that guidance. They don't have the they don't have the experience or the knowledge, right, in that field, and that's where we're the experts. And that's what makes us unique, is we can step in, and I'm sure the goal for you is you step in and say, okay, here's the skill set. Let me work with you for a year or so, or however long they want to work with you. And then it's like, let the bird go fly on its own.
Literally,
Like, can you go do it?
Yeah, go have fun. I wanna coach myself out of your life, because
Yes, exactly.
if you need me to tell you everything for the rest, like, then I'm not doing my job. I'm not taking care of you in the way that we need to get you doing what you need to do all by yourself.
100%.
And real quick, I want to jump into a little bit more on your dissertation when it came to motivation. I remember talking a lot about that. Do you mind talking a little bit about like the research that you found, what that experience was like, and if you have or thought about even linking it to performance? This idea between motivation and performance. I'd love to explore that a little bit.
Yeah, so first off, yes, I have linked it to my own performance, and that actually what brought up my interest in it. So when I was in grad school, my first experience with research was working with Dr. DeBall, and he didn't, and no one in our field or in our area at in the kinesis department really did anything with psychology. We were very much more focused on functional movement. Like the functional movement screen was a big thing and still is. I still utilize it in all my classes. And so we were really into like understanding how athletes move and how it's related to their performance and then injury prevention. So my first taste of research was I assessed different athletes at Fresno Pacific. So it was like the track team, the distance runners, jumpers. I think I did water polo, basketball, volleyball, all the main sports there. And I looked at all their functional movement screens and compared it to their body mass index. So I wanted to see like if you had more mass, did it affect your movement pattern? And I found an inverse relationship that the athletes who had more mass, whether it was fat or muscle, just were bigger people, they didn't move as well. And so, and it was like a direct trend. There were a couple outliers, but for the most part, it was like, if you were tall and lean, you moved well. If you were short and stocky, you didn't move well. It was kind of interesting. Or if you were tall and really heavy, you didn't move well. And that started getting my interest into like, that was like my first taste of research. And then when I got into grad school, so my PhD was in health and human performance. So part of the degree was looking at like epidemiology and how do we use exercise to combat health and like long-term disease. And the other half of it was all about human performance. Like how can we get the most out of individuals for the sake of, peak performance based on their physiology. And one of the courses I took, it was a psychology course, and the professor who taught it, she had worked with the U.S. Olympic team. And I forget which actual athletes. I think she was working with some of the gymnasts. So probably like Simone Biles and those folks. And I remember talking to her and when I was taking her class and just hearing, I asked her some questions about like, what their mentality is and how she viewed their mentality compared to like non-pros or the folks that were trying to make the team that just weren't cutting it. And she had some interesting comments about, a lot of it had to do with motivation, right? What is your like self-determination and motivation and your drive to pursue competing at that high level? And she made a comment that like some folks just don't have it. And I started to think like, okay, what about runners? Because at that point I had gotten into marathon running and I'm like, okay, yeah, we could look at functional movement. We could look at, muscle activation, all that fun stuff, whatever. That all matters. But like, what about the brain? Because if the brain isn't there, like the rest of it doesn't matter. It's all mental. And I learned that in the marathon, like after like probably my 10th marathon, it started to dawn on me, like, this is just a mental game. And I remember my coach told me one time, he said, he's from Mexico. And so he didn't speak very good English, but I remember him telling me, he's like, Steven, the race starts at mile 20. If you're not there mentally, you're not going to win. Like you defeat yourself. It's always stuck with me. And it's like, and it makes sense. Cause like in a marathon, if you're hurting in the first 10 miles, game over. Right. And like, even on Sunday, like I felt good. I actually was frustrated because my calf pulled on me at like by mile 18, I was just in terrible pain. But aerobically, I was like, this is not hard at all. Like I could run so much faster right now. And mentally, I was like, well, this sucks because I could PR right now. Like I could go sub 235. I know I have it in me.
Mhm.
And mentally, I was like, I'm fine. I'm fine. I was like slapping my leg, saying, just shut up, leg. Like we're fine. We're gonna do this. And it was actually my mental ability that allowed me to overcome the pain because I ran on a pulled calf muscle for 8 miles at
Mhm.
basically 6:15 pace. So I slowed down to about 6:15. And most people that I've talked to are like, how did you finish? Did you walk? I was like, no, I didn't walk. Like, I wasn't gonna, I'm not walking.
Yeah.
My wife even has a video of me. I was coming up one of the hills and she's like, go Stevie, go. And I was like, I pulled my calf and she's like, no. And I was like, it hurts so bad. And I just kept going right back. She's like, do you want to stop and stretch? No, leave me alone. It's like, it's that mental grind of like, you got to push through. So that's what sparked my interest in grad school. I was like, I want to know what separates the non-professional. So I didn't want to look at pros because let's be honest, most professionals, and I know a lot of pros. One of my really good friends is a professional marathon runner, one of the best in the U.S. And I know that those folks, if I'm being brutally honest, they're on the spectrum, right? And I'd say we're all on the spectrum, right? Because the spectrum includes everybody. But they're like off in this world where they're not they're very high functioning, right? And they're normal people, but like they're kind of socially awkward and they're very intellectual and they can just like hyper focus on performance, right? Do you know what I'm saying? Almost like Asperger's in a sense, but like fully functioning. And then of course they have the genetic capacity to perform. And I know folks like that. And I've met a few of them where I'm like, yeah, there's something a little off about you, but you're really good at what you do because you're a little off, right? So I didn't want to look at the pros because the pros are like the outliers. What I wanted to look at is what about us normal folks, like the ones who have normal jobs and like aren't professional runners, but we have goals and so what I did is I set up a study where I used this survey called the Motivation of Marathon Runners. It was a survey that came out in the mid 90s and it was updated in like 2016 or 2017. And I found this survey and I was like, this is really good. It was like 53 questions or something like that. And each question fell within a category of motivation. And I forget off the top of my head, there was like 4 categories. There's like performance, health, social, some type of social engagement, and something else. So there were like these 4 categories. And then the categories were broken down into 7 subcategories. And the ones that stood out to me, so like I wanted to know like what form of motivation is most common amongst all non-professional runners. So I created these categories. As I sent out this survey to people, I asked them, have you qualified for Boston? Are you a Boston? So that was like the threshold. If you can qualify for Boston, regardless of your age or gender, you're a high performing non-professional runner, right? Then I had the category of you haven't qualified, but then I had a middle category that was I'm trying to qualify, but I haven't done it yet, right? Because I wanted to know what separates the best, like someone like me who can hit that qualifying time relatively easy, versus the ones who are struggling to get there, versus the ones who are just running and don't care.
Yeah.
Right. Like I want to know the difference. So I ended up getting like, I don't know, 300 or 400 responses back from, because I knew a lot of race directors in California and was able to get a lot of good responses. And the trend that I found was the obvious was competition. So the high achieving ones, they're very competitive with themselves and with other people. So we knew that was going to be the case. The other one was for health purposes and their desire to improve their physiology, right? Whether it was personal looks or the way they felt, right? Which a lot of us can relate to, right? We want to
100%.
feel good in our clothes. We want to look good in our clothes. But the one that was an outlier that I didn't see coming, but now I understand it, social engagement. The social engagement was a higher motivation factor in the ones who had qualified and those trying to qualify versus the ones who didn't. And I find that so fascinating in our current culture because look at how many run clubs are starting up. How
Dude,
many people are running marathons now?
it's insane.
Like it's over quadrupled in the last decade, right? So, I mean, even yourself, you just ran a marathon, right? It's like where did that come from? And I think for a lot of us, what we can relate to is, and this is where we're different than the pros. The pros, someone like a good friend of mine, CJ Albertson, like he can run by himself every day and be perfectly fine. He could run circles around his neighborhood at 5-minute pace for 20 miles and with no music, and he would be fine, right? Because he's in his own little realm, right?
Yeah, that sounds
We
like
can't
hell.
relate to that. Yeah. Sounds like a death march, right? So the normal person or the average person can't relate to that. But what we can relate to is if you get involved in a run club, and now those friends who you meet up with a few times a week or every weekend for a long run, I would argue that my running buddies, and I'm going to say this publicly, and if my brother listens to this, I apologize, but I'm closer to a handful of my running friends than I ever have been to my own brother. And because we text each other every day. We spend time. We've run thousands of miles together, and we know everything about each other. It's probably scary if you stop and think about it. I probably know more about some of my friends than their spouses do. You know what I mean? Like, and that creates community, and that creates accountability. And when you don't show up for a run, you text each other and you haze each other like, why aren't you here? Why are you sleeping in? What are you doing? And you sign up for races together. You go to Boston together. You go to these big events. I just saw hundreds of my buddies this weekend at the Two Cities Marathon. And it's one of those things where when you get involved in that type of community, that's where you now find your identity, right? Like my identity is I'm a part of the Fresno Clovis running community. And that was on full display. Ironically on Sunday, probably one of my favorite experiences about the race was how many people yelled my name. I heard Steven and I heard Dr. Waite, like my students were out there. And what was funny is I was running with really cool experience. I was running with Connor Mance and his wife, Kylie Mance. Yeah, so Kylie is from Buchanan High School. So she came back to Fresno to run her debut marathon this Sunday. And I knew from CJ had told me, because he's friends with Connor, that she was going to try and run an OTQ time, which is right around what my PR is, around sub 2:37. So when I got there, I introduced myself to Connor. And I said, hey, I'm going to run with you guys and let's work together. So I got to run. We ended up running about 12 miles together, and Kylie had some stomach issues and had to slow down, and I kept going. And fortunately, she didn't hit the time, but she put in a valid effort for sure. And she was only a few minutes behind me. But it was a cool experience. And what was so neat about it is I was sitting there just chatting with Connor for like 11, 12 miles, just talking about running and all sorts of cool stuff. And along the way, you'd have a few people go, oh, that's Connor Mance. But I would argue like twice as many people were like, hey, Steven. You know what I mean?
It's your community. It's your zone. Yeah.
So even the fastest
advantage.
Yeah, even the fastest runner in the United States got less shout outs than some random local dude. And that just kind of summarizes why I do it, and it really supports what I found in my research is that the motivation comes from, yes, it's from yourself. You have to have the desire to improve yourself, and there has to be a goal. If you don't have a goal, what are you aiming for? If your goal is just to get fit, or if your goal is like, I just want to lose weight. Yeah, but like how much weight and how fast do you want to do it? And what size jeans do you want to wear? Like really have like intentional goals. You can't be vague about these things. Like if you want to run a sub 240 marathon, put that up on your fridge. Look at it every day. And when you go to reach for the ice cream, look at that note and go, oh, okay, is this helping me to get there? So it's things like that are helpful. And then having that social engagement. Do you have people holding you accountable? And do you enjoy it? Like, and if you don't enjoy it and you don't enjoy the people you're around, you're not going to like to do it. It's kind of like at work. If you don't enjoy your coworkers, work's going to suck, and nobody wants to work by themselves in a cubicle. So you gotta find that niche,
100%. Yeah, there's definitely been ways because I told you that I joined a run club that we meet here in DC, and there are days where I wake up and like I don't want to be here. Then all of a sudden, like I'm at the track, and I'm like, wait a minute, how did I get here and why? Like, what am I doing out here? And then I
Yeah.
say what's up to all my boys and I get on the track. It's like, all right, let's get it going. So it's definitely, yeah, that social engagement is a huge, huge part.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing too is it makes me think about the third place. So having work being one, your home being another one, and then what's the third place where you spend the most of your time? So if it is in an activity like running or the gym or some sort of rock climbing, some other sort of hobby, that kind of turns into that social sphere, which is incredible, especially when it's something that gets you outside and active.
If you can incorporate that third space with another aspect of your life, whether it's with your work people or with, just with your friends, and it's a hobby that you can do together, you're killing two birds with one stone. And I'm sure you hear this from clients all the time, but the biggest restriction isn't necessarily motivation. That's a big factor, but time. Right? We live in a society that is just go, 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 go. And we're so technology driven. And I think technology can help us leverage our goals, right? But it can also be a hindrance, right? Because I see, and I don't want to go off on a tangent here, a little rabbit hole. You can pull me out of the rabbit hole anytime and tell me to shut up. But I think about our youth, because as an exercise science professor, like my goal is to train our current students to have a positive impact, not only on the folks that they meet in the clinic, like a PT clinic or OT area or athletic training, but like you're influencing generations behind you. And a lot of students, I'll be honest with you, Tobias, that as I've gone on in my teaching tenure, the students have gotten, I want to say, like less active, right? And I think a lot of that has to do with technology, that we've become so glued to our phones that the phones become a distraction at the gym. The phones keep us, and the video games keep us from wanting to go outside. And we see it, right? We see it's not just I think a lot of people will say, oh, like our nutrition's gotten bad. We rely too much on fast food. I'll be honest with you. I could probably get away with eating fast food every day if I'm running and doing what I'm doing, like, and eating in moderation. It's that, I don't think that's the core of the issue. Yeah, you could improve your nutrition, but the core of the issue is where do you spend your time? And I'd also challenge people, like, look at your wallet. Look at your bank account. What do you spend your money on? I'd say the average American spends most of their money on entertainment, right? And it's entertainment that is sedentary. It's not like, I'm going to go golfing. That's great entertainment. Go spend your money on that. That's awesome. Go spend on running shoes. My wife gives me a hard time. Just the other day, I dropped like $350 on 2 pairs of running shoes, right? Some carbon fiber racing shoes that I wore on Sunday and some nice trainers. And that was with a discount, right? Because I have a hookup at Brooks. She goes, why are you spending that much money? And I look at her and I go, honey, I could have easily spent that on the new PlayStation or, whatever, fill in the blank, or like pizza and beer or whatever, like I could have spent on something that isn't benefiting my health or influencing my children in a good way, and I think that's where people really need to stop and evaluate, like, where do I spend all my time and money? And if you can bring those things together, and I'm not saying you have to be obsessive and do what I do, like you don't have to run marathons to get this. It's just like, can you get involved in something where it matches both your desired lifestyle and your community, right? And you can kind of kill two birds with one stone. Go hang out with your friends at the gym. Go hang out with your friends at a run club. Then you're not worried about, like, oh, I don't have time to exercise because I need to go meet up with my friends and be social. Like, you can do both,
Yeah,
That's the sweet spot.
It's a lot of it is mindset shift, and what are your values? That's where I start a lot of the work that I do with my clients, and say, what's our goal? What do we value? How can we get there? So
yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, well, dude, thank you so much for hanging out this last hour. It's been a great conversation. I loved hearing about, right, all your different types of performances, from work to the marathon to being a father and a husband, and how it all interconnects for you. I think that's such a cool scenario.
Thanks. Yeah, it's fun. I'm very blessed. I enjoy my lifestyle, and for those listening, it's you can create your own oasis even in the midst of chaos, right? The world continues to revolve around us, and you just have to find the areas that you want to be involved in and be influenced by, and allow that to shape you. So, and if anybody has any questions about running
Of
or
course.
wants to talk like nutrition or fitness or whatever, you feel free to share my information to anybody. They can find me if you go on Fresno State University's website. You can find me in the exercise science department. Shoot me an email. I'm always happy to answer questions. That's what I do for a living, so I enjoy it a lot.
Definitely. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, yeah, thanks again so much for logging on. This has been a real treat.
My pleasure, Tobias.